What if time itself is running out? What if everything you know, everything you've ever trusted, is slipping through your fingers as we speak? In the dead of night, mysterious rings appear in the woods, dark symbols etched into the earth as if some ancient force had left them behind. No one knows who or what made them, but the air is thick with tension. It's as if the forest itself is hiding a secret, something that has been waiting for centuries to be uncovered. And just when you think it can't get any stranger, hundreds of crows descend on a Walmart in Texas. Dark wings blot out the sky, a chilling, unnatural scene that feels like a harbinger of doom. Suddenly, a glowing angelic cloud hovers above Texas, its shape unmistakable, its wings spread wide. Is it a sign of hope, or does it carry a darker message? But hold on, there's more. A sky strike, a meteor crashing dangerously close, rips through the night sky, leaving us all wondering, what if it had hit just a little closer? In Florida, the sun sets in an unnatural red, the sky burning with an eerie glow as a white line cuts through it, and the moon hangs there, chillingly visible in the same sky. What does this mean? Are these just random events? Or is something much darker, something beyond our understanding, unfolding before our very eyes? Could it be a warning from above? What do you think? Are we witnessing the end of something? The signs are all around us. Are we ignoring them? Or is it already too late? Stay with us to find out, because what happens next will leave you questioning everything you thought you knew. 1. A hidden warning beneath the earth. Deep beneath the surface of the earth, more than 500 feet underground, a routine exploration suddenly turned into something far more unsettling. Inside a massive dark cave chamber, researchers discovered hundreds of perfectly round formations resting quietly in shallow pools. These strange spheres, known as cave pearls, looked almost too perfect to be natural, smooth, balanced, and polished by time itself. Some were as large as tennis balls, silently forming in darkness for thousands of years, layer after layer of calcite slowly building around a tiny grain at their center. Standing there in the silent cavern, many explorers felt a strange sense that this place had been waiting to be discovered for far longer than any human life. Cave pearls are extremely rare geological formations. They grow when mineral-rich water constantly drips into small cave pools, slowly coating tiny particles with layers of calcite. Each small movement of water gently spins them, polishing them into near-perfect spheres over centuries. Scientists say the process can take hundreds or even thousands of years, meaning many of the pearls found today began forming long before modern civilization existed. Yet the moment explorers saw dozens of them scattered across the cave floor, it felt less like a scientific discovery and more like uncovering a hidden vault of ancient secrets. Long before caves were explored with modern equipment, the Bible spoke about the hidden wonders of creation. In Job 28:24-25, it says, "For he looks to the ends of the earth and sees everything under the heavens. When he gave to the wind its weight and apportioned the waters by measure." These words remind believers that nothing within the depths of the earth escapes the sight of God. Every hidden chamber, every mineral, every drop of water moving through stone exists within a design far older and greater than human understanding. For the explorers standing in that cave, the discovery felt almost symbolic. The pearls had formed slowly in darkness, untouched, unseen, patiently shaped over ages. It raises a deeper question. Why do such perfect formations remain hidden for so long, only to appear suddenly in our time? Could these discoveries simply be geological coincidences, or are they quiet reminders of how vast and mysterious creation truly is? Sometimes the earth itself seems to hold messages that are only revealed when the right moment arrives. Another passage speaks about the hidden treasures of the earth in Isaiah 45:3. "I will give you the treasures of darkness and hidden riches of secret places, that you may know that I, the Lord, who calls you by your name, am the God of Israel." To many believers, verses like this take on a new meaning when discoveries like cave pearls emerge from deep underground. They become reminders that the natural world still holds countless mysteries waiting to be uncovered. Scientists can explain how cave pearls form, describing water chemistry, calcite layers, and slow geological processes. But explanations about how something forms do not always answer a deeper question: why such wonders exist at all, and why they appear when they do. Standing in that cavern, surrounded by formations that had quietly grown for thousands of years, some explorers admitted they felt as though they had stepped into a place time had almost forgotten. In Romans 1:20, the Bible reflects on this very idea. For since the creation of the world, God's invisible qualities, His eternal power and divine nature have been clearly seen, being understood from what has been made. Many believers see discoveries like these not just as natural formations, but as quiet evidence of a design woven through the world itself. Perhaps these hidden pearls are nothing more than beautiful geological curiosities, or perhaps they are reminders that creation still holds countless mysteries beneath its surface, waiting patiently to reveal themselves. And if something so remarkable can remain hidden for thousands of years beneath the earth, it raises another unsettling thought. What other signs might still be waiting to emerge from the darkness when the time finally comes? 2. Mysterious signs written on the forest floor. What began as a quiet walk through the woods quickly turned into a moment no one in that group would ever forget. A few friends stepped into the forest expecting nothing more than a peaceful adventure, but after only a short distance, they noticed something strange on the ground. Dark rings appeared in the soil, arranged in patterns that looked almost deliberate, like symbols carefully drawn by an unseen hand. There were no footprints nearby, no tools, no people in sight. Only these silent circles resting in the middle of the clearing. In that moment, the calm atmosphere of the forest shifted, replaced by a heavy stillness, as if creation itself had paused. The friends stood frozen, staring at the markings, sensing that what they were witnessing might be more than a simple coincidence. The longer they studied the rings, the more unsettling the scene became. The shapes seemed too precise, too intentional to be random, almost like a message left behind for those who happened to see it. Nervous glances passed between them, and what had begun as a peaceful walk quickly turned into quiet unease. The group decided to leave, yet even as they walked away, the image of those circles remained in their minds, like a silent message written into the earth. For believers, moments like this often stir a deeper thought. Sometimes the world itself reflects the hand of the Creator. Romans 1:20 reminds us, "For since the creation of the world, God's invisible qualities, His eternal power and divine nature, have been clearly seen, being understood from what has been made." Even the ground beneath our feet can point back to the power of God. The Bible also reminds us that God has always used signs to awaken humanity. Acts 2:19 declares, "I will show wonders in the heavens above and signs on the earth below." When unusual patterns appear in nature, many believers pause and wonder if they are witnessing one of those quiet reminders that the Lord still speaks through His creation. The mysterious rings in that forest clearing may look small, but the scriptures teach that God often uses simple things to draw human hearts back toward Him. Psalm 19:1 proclaims, "The heavens declare the glory of God, the skies proclaim the work of His hands." If the skies can proclaim His glory, then even the earth itself may carry traces of His message. And yet the Bible also warns that not every mystery will be explained right away. Deuteronomy 29:29 says, "The secret things belong to the Lord our God, but those things which are revealed belong to us." The rings remained there in the forest long after the group had left, silent and unexplained, like a reminder that God's creation still holds wonders far beyond human understanding. But if something as simple as strange markings in the soil can leave people unsettled and searching for meaning, what other signs might already be appearing somewhere nearby, waiting for someone to notice them next? 3. A sudden sign placed in the path. Another unsettling scene appeared somewhere else, this time not hidden among trees but placed directly in the path of travelers. A quiet road suddenly became the center of confusion when a massive tree trunk was found standing in the middle of it, as if it had been deliberately positioned there. Pieces of wood and scattered debris surrounded it, yet there were no signs of a storm, no vehicles nearby, no clear explanation for how something so large could suddenly appear in such a precise spot. Drivers slowed down, staring at the strange sight with growing unease. The trunk stood there like a silent messenger, blocking the road, as though it had been placed there for a reason. The more people looked at the scene, the more unsettling it became. Nothing about it seemed natural or accidental. The trunk was not lying randomly, like a fallen tree after a storm. It stood in a way that made it feel almost intentional, like a marker or a warning placed where people could not ignore it. For a moment, the road became strangely quiet, and the ordinary rhythm of daily life paused. Some began to wonder if the world itself was beginning to show signs that humanity had overlooked for too long. The Bible reminds us that the Lord sometimes allows events to interrupt the normal flow of life in order to awaken human hearts. Scripture repeatedly warns that humanity will face moments when the world feels uncertain and difficult to understand. Jeremiah 10:23 speaks about this fragile reality. Lord, I know that people's lives are not their own. It is not for them to direct their steps. When strange events appear without explanation, they remind us how little control we truly have over the world around us. What may look like random confusion to human eyes can often be a moment that forces people to remember the authority of God over all creation. Another powerful reminder appears in Hebrews 12:26-27, which declares, "At that time his voice shook the earth. Once more I will shake not only the earth, but also the heavens." For believers, verses like this carry a serious message. When unusual things begin to appear in places where they should not be, some see them as small echoes of a greater shaking that the Bible has long warned about. They remind humanity that the stability we often take for granted can change in a moment. In the end, the trunk remained in the road like a silent witness, leaving behind more questions than answers. People eventually passed by, life moved on, and the scene faded into memory. But the unsettling thought lingered. If something so inexplicable could appear out of nowhere in the middle of a road, it left the feeling that there were other hidden signs, silently gathering in places we cannot see, waiting to reveal themselves in due time. 4. A warning from the depths. Another strange discovery left people equally disturbed, this time hidden deep within nature itself. A small group of travelers exploring a remote area suddenly came across a dark stream, unlike anything they had seen before. The water was not clear, not muddy, but completely black, absorbing light in a way that made it look almost bottomless. Curious but uneasy, one of them dropped a stick into the water, expecting it to float or settle somewhere below. Instead, the stick disappeared into the darkness, sinking deeper and deeper until it vanished from sight entirely, as if the stream itself had swallowed it. The group stood there in silence, staring at the strange water. Nothing about it felt normal. The surface was still, quiet, almost lifeless, yet the depth beneath it seemed endless. An uncomfortable tension filled the air, and what had started as curiosity quickly turned into fear. Without speaking much, the travelers slowly backed away and decided to leave the area. Sometimes the instinct to walk away comes from something deeper than logic, an inner warning that something is not meant to be disturbed. For believers, moments like this can stir powerful memories of Scripture. The Bible often uses dark waters as a symbol of danger, judgment, and forces beyond human control. Psalm 69:1-2 cries out, "Save me, O God, for the waters have come up to my neck. I sink in the miry depths, where there is no foothold. I have come into the deep waters, and the floods engulf me. Verses like these remind believers that darkness beneath the surface can represent more than just physical depth. It can symbolize the overwhelming forces that only God has the power to command. The scriptures also warn that the world itself can reveal signs meant to awaken humanity. Luke 21:25 declares, "There will be signs in the sun, moon, and stars. On the earth, nations will be in anguish and perplexity at the roaring and tossing of the sea." When nature begins to display unusual and unsettling scenes, many believers see them as reminders that creation itself is under the authority of God and can reflect the spiritual struggles unfolding across the world. Yet even in moments that feel dark or frightening, the Bible reminds us who ultimately rules over the waters. Psalm 89:9 proclaims, "You rule the raging of the sea. When its waves rise, you still them." The strange stream may have looked endless and unknowable, but the scriptures teach that no depth is beyond the reach of God's power. What appears mysterious or even threatening to human eyes remains under the command of the Creator. The travelers eventually left that place, but the memory stayed with them: the silent black water, the stick vanishing into the depths, the feeling that something far beyond human understanding was hidden beneath the surface. And if a quiet stream in the wilderness could reveal such an unsettling mystery, what might happen when the signs begin to appear not only in the forests and rivers, but high above us in the skies? 5. The ominous gathering of crows. As if the strange signs on the earth were not enough, something unsettling soon appeared above it. One evening in Texas, outside a large store parking lot, people began noticing something unusual gathering in the sky. At first, it was only a few crows, circling quietly above the buildings. But within minutes, the number multiplied. Dozens became hundreds. Dark wings filled the air, covering rooftops, streetlights, and nearby trees, until the sky itself seemed to move with restless black shapes. The sound of their calls echoed across the parking lot, and what had been an ordinary evening suddenly felt heavy and unnatural. People stopped walking and looked upward in confusion. The birds did not simply pass through the area like a normal flock. Instead, they gathered, circled, and settled everywhere at once, turning the bright evening sky into something darker and more ominous. Some filmed the scene on their phones, others simply stood there watching in silence. There was no clear reason for such a massive gathering. The moment felt strangely symbolic, as if nature itself had decided to send a message that no one could easily ignore. In the Bible, birds have often appeared during moments when God was revealing something important to humanity. Jeremiah 4:25-26 describes a troubling vision. "I looked, and there were no people. Every bird in the sky had flown away. I looked, and the fruitful land was a desert." Passages like this remind believers that unusual movements among the creatures of the earth can sometimes accompany warnings about coming change. When the skies suddenly fill with dark wings, some believers see it as a reminder that the world may be moving towards something humanity is not fully prepared for. Another powerful verse appears in Hosea 4:3, which says, "Because of this, the land dries up, and all who live in it waste away. The beasts of the field, the birds of the air, and the fish of the sea are swept away." Scripture repeatedly shows that the behavior of animals can reflect deeper spiritual warnings. When the natural order begins to look unusual or disturbed, it can cause people to pause and reflect on the condition of the world and their own faith. Even Jesus himself warned that humanity should remain watchful when signs begin appearing across the earth and sky. Luke 21:28 declares, "When these things begin to take place, stand up and lift up your heads, because your redemption is drawing near." For believers, moments like the sudden gathering of countless crows can stir a sobering thought that the world may sometimes display quiet warnings long before larger events unfold. Eventually, the birds scattered and the sky returned to normal, but the image remained in the minds of those who witnessed it. Hundreds of dark wings circling overhead, turning an ordinary evening into something unsettling and unforgettable. And if the skies themselves can suddenly fill with such strange and ominous signs, then perhaps what appears next in the heavens could be even more difficult to explain. 6. A shadow watching from above. In a clear blue sky over Peru, where nothing unusual was expected, a massive dark cloud suddenly formed without warning. It did not drift in like ordinary clouds, nor did it blend with the sky around it. It stood alone, dense, heavy, and unnaturally still, as if it had been placed there deliberately. People looked up in confusion, some pointing, others filming, all sensing that something about it was not right. And just as suddenly as it appeared, it vanished, leaving behind an empty sky and a deep, lingering unease. What made the moment so disturbing was not just the cloud itself, but how it behaved. It did not follow the natural movement of the wind. It did not slowly fade or shift like ordinary clouds. It appeared, hovered, and disappeared, as if it had completed a purpose no one could understand. For those who witnessed it, the feeling was difficult to describe, like being watched, like something unseen had briefly revealed itself and then withdrawn. In that moment, the sky no longer felt distant or passive. It felt alive and aware. The Bible has long connected clouds with the presence and power of God. Exodus 13:21 declares, "By day the Lord went ahead of them in a pillar of cloud to guide them on their way." But clouds are not always symbols of comfort. They can also represent warning, judgment, and divine authority. Luke 21:27 says, "At that time they will see the Son of Man coming in a cloud with power and great glory." For believers, an unusual cloud appearing without explanation can stir a powerful thought. Sometimes the heavens reveal signs that humanity is not ready to fully understand. There are also moments in Scripture where clouds carry a darker tone, reminding people of God's overwhelming power. Ezekiel 30:3 warns, "For the day is near, the day of the Lord is near, a day of clouds, a time of doom for the nations." Verses like this cause many to pause when they witness something unnatural in the sky, wondering whether such moments are simply rare events or quiet warnings that something greater is unfolding beyond human sight. The cloud over Peru disappeared as quickly as it came, leaving no trace behind, only questions, fear, and a growing sense that the signs were not random. And if something could appear in the sky so suddenly, without explanation, as if watching from above, then what happens when the heavens no longer remain silent, but begin to reveal something far more visible, far more undeniable? 7. A glimpse of the divine. After moments of darkness and unease in the sky, something appeared that felt completely different, yet just as powerful. In Texas, witnesses looked up and saw a cloud unlike any other. Among ordinary shapes drifting across the sky, one formation stood out with striking clarity. It resembled an angel, wings spread wide, towering above the horizon, as if it had descended from heaven itself. The shape was so defined, so unmistakable, that people stopped in awe, pointing upward, some overwhelmed with emotion. For a brief moment, the fear that had built from earlier signs seemed to soften, replaced by a quiet sense of wonder. But even in that beauty, there was something deeper, something that stirred the soul. The cloud did not feel random. It felt intentional, as if the heavens themselves had revealed a sign not of chaos, but of presence. Many who saw it believed they were witnessing a reminder that God had not abandoned the world, even as strange and unsettling events continued to unfold. It was as if, in the middle of growing uncertainty, a message of divine authority had been written across the sky for all to see. The Bible speaks clearly about the role of angels as messengers of God. Psalm 91:11 declares, "For he will command his angels concerning you to guard you in all your ways." And in Hebrews 1:14, it is written, "Are not all angels ministering spirits sent to serve those who will inherit salvation?" For believers, the appearance of something resembling an angel in the sky is not just a coincidence. It can feel like a reminder that the spiritual world is closer than we think, watching, guiding, and sometimes revealing itself in moments we cannot ignore. At the same time, Scripture also reminds us that divine appearances often come with purpose. Luke 2-9 says, "An angel of the Lord appeared to them, and the glory of the Lord shone around them, and they were terrified." Even when angels bring messages of hope, their presence carries overwhelming power. The cloud may have brought peace to some, but it also raised a powerful question. Why now? Why? In a time when so many strange signs were already appearing across the world. The image slowly faded, the sky returning to normal, but the impact remained. Because if the heavens can reveal not only warnings, but also signs of divine presence, then perhaps what comes next will not only be seen, but felt. Sudden, powerful, and impossible to ignore, as if the sky itself is preparing to act rather than simply reveal. 8. Fire striking from the heavens. After the sky revealed shapes and silent warnings, it did something far more violent. It struck. On a stormy day by the water, a man sat quietly testing his camera, unaware that within seconds he would capture something shocking. Without warning, a blinding flash tore across the sky, followed by a blazing object crashing down toward the bay. The impact was sudden, explosive, and terrifyingly close. For a brief moment, it felt as if something had been sent from above, not just seen, but released. The calm horizon turned into chaos in an instant, and the man could only stare, frozen, realizing how close that force had come. The tension of that moment did not come only from what was seen, but from what could have happened. What if it had struck closer? What if it had hit land instead of water? The sky, which moments before seemed distant and untouchable, suddenly felt dangerous, active, unpredictable, and far beyond human control. Events like this shake something deep inside people, forcing them to confront a truth they often ignore. Humanity is not as safe or as powerful as it believes. The Bible has long warned that the heavens themselves can become instruments of God's power. Revelation 8-7 declares, "The first angel sounded his trumpet, and there came hail and fire mixed with blood, and it was hurled down on the earth." And again in Luke 21:11, "It is written, there will be great earthquakes, and fearful events, and great signs from heaven." For believers, moments like a sudden sky strike are not just natural events. They can feel like echoes of warnings written thousands of years ago, reminding humanity that the heavens are not silent. There is also a deeper message hidden within such moments. Isaiah 24:19-20 says, "The earth is broken up. The earth is split asunder. The earth reels like a drunkard." These verses paint a picture of a world shaken by forces far greater than human strength. When something falls from the sky with such power, it becomes a reminder that creation itself can change in an instant, and that human control is fragile at best. The flash faded, the water calmed, and life continued, but the fear remained. Because if something can fall from the sky without warning, striking the earth with unstoppable force, then perhaps the next sign will not just shake the ground, but change the sky itself in a way no one can ignore. 9. The sky turned into a warning. After the sky struck with fire, it did not return to normal. It changed. In Florida, as evening approached, people looked toward the horizon, expecting an ordinary sunset. But what they saw instead was deeply unsettling. The sun burned red, an intense, unnatural color that filled the sky with an eerie glow. It looked less like the sun people knew, and more like something distant and foreign, hanging low and heavy above the earth. Cutting across it was a strange white streak, while at the same time, the moon was already visible, sharing the sky in a way that felt wrong, out of place, almost like time itself had lost its order. The scene was silent, yet overwhelming. There were no wildfires, no smoke, no clear explanation for why the sky looked the way it did. People stopped, stared, recorded. But beneath that curiosity was a growing sense of unease. It felt like more than just a strange sunset. It felt like a signal. As if the sky itself was no longer simply part of the background, but had become a message urgent, impossible to ignore, pressing down on those who witnessed it. The normal rhythm of day and night seemed disrupted, and for a moment, the world felt uncertain. The Bible has long warned about such signs in the heavens. Revelation 6:12 declares, "The sun turned black like sackcloth made of goat hair. The whole moon turned blood red." And in Joel 2:30-31, it is written, "I will show wonders in the heavens and on the earth. The sun will be turned to darkness and the moon to blood, before the coming of the great and dreadful day of the Lord." For believers, a red sun is not just a rare sight. It is a powerful symbol, one that has been written in Scripture as a warning of coming change, judgment, and awakening. Unquote. These verses do not describe a quiet world. They describe a world being shaken, a sky transforming in ways that force humanity to look up and recognize that something greater is unfolding. When the sun itself begins to look unfamiliar, it challenges one of the most basic assumptions of human life, that tomorrow will be the same as today. But the Bible reminds us that there will come a time when even the most constant things begin to change. The red glow eventually faded, the sky darkened, and night took over, but the image stayed with those who saw it. Because if the sun itself can transform into something so strange, so unsettling, perhaps the next sign will not just appear in the sky, but in the very flow of life itself, where even time and movement no longer behave the way they should. 10. When time stands still. The next sign did not come from above, but from life on the ground. On a cold, rainy afternoon, a group of people witnessed something deeply unsettling. Several horses standing completely still, frozen in place as if time itself had stopped around them. Their bodies did not move, their posture remained fixed, and for a moment it felt as though they had turned into statues. The rain continued to fall, the wind still moved through the air, but the horses remained unmoving, silent, almost disconnected from the flow of the world around them. The stillness was what made the moment so disturbing. Animals are creatures of instinct, always reacting, always aware. Yet here they stood, without motion, without response, as if something invisible had paused them. Those who witnessed it felt a growing unease, a quiet fear that something beyond human understanding had briefly taken hold of reality itself. It was not loud, not explosive like the sky strike, but in its silence, it felt even more unnatural. Because when movement stops, when life itself seems to hesitate, it forces a terrifying question. What if time is not as constant as we believe? The Bible speaks of moments when the natural order is disrupted by the authority of God. Ecclesiastes 3:1 declares, "To everything there is a season, and a time for every purpose under heaven." If God appoints time itself, then He also has the power to interrupt it. And in Habakkuk 2:20 it is written, "The Lord is in His holy temple. Let all the earth be silent before Him." For believers, silence and stillness are not always empty. They can be signs of something greater, moments when creation itself pauses before the presence of the Almighty. There is also a deeper, more sobering reflection in Scripture. Revelation 8:1 says, "When He opened the seventh seal, there was silence in heaven for about half an hour." Even heaven itself experiences moments of complete stillness before what comes next. When life on earth mirrors that silence, even briefly, it can feel like a shadow of something far greater, a pause before events that humanity may not be ready to face. Eventually, the horses moved again. The moment passed, and the world continued as if nothing had happened. But for those who witnessed it, the memory remained a brief instant where time seemed to stop, where life itself stood still under an unseen force. And when you begin to connect all these signs, the earth, the sky, the animals, the silence, it leads to one final, unsettling thought. What if these are not isolated events at all, but pieces of a much larger warning that humanity has yet to fully understand? 10 signs. 10 moments that, at first, may have seemed disconnected. A hidden perfection beneath the earth, silent rings marked into the forest floor, an object appearing without explanation, a dark stream that felt deeper than it should be. Then the sky began to respond, with crows covering the light, a watching darkness above, a sudden glimpse of something almost angelic. Fire fell from the heavens, the sun turned red, and finally, life itself stood still, as if time had paused for just a moment. Individually, each of these could be dismissed, explained away, forgotten, but together, they begin to form something else. They begin to resemble a pattern, one that echoes a much larger picture described in the Bible. Scripture speaks of signs in the earth, signs in the heavens, and moments when creation itself reflects something beyond human understanding, not to confuse us, but to awaken us. Not to frighten us without purpose, but to remind us that this world is not as stable as we often believe. Because the truth is, we are not just witnessing these signs, we are living in a time where they matter. And maybe the real question is not what these signs are, but what they are asking from us. This is a moment to wake up, to slow down, even just for a minute, and look inward. Where is your faith right now? When the world feels uncertain, when things don't make sense, there is still one place that remains steady: God. His presence does not shift. His promises do not fade. And no matter how chaotic things may seem, He is still in control. So take a moment, right now, say a prayer. It doesn't need to be perfect. It just needs to be real. Ask for guidance. Ask for peace. Ask for strength. And if you feel comfortable, leave your prayer or your thoughts down in the comments. You never know who might read your words and find comfort in them. Sometimes, a single sentence of faith can reach further than we ever expect. If this message spoke to you, even in the smallest way, don't keep it to yourself. Like this video, share it with someone who might need it, and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss any future messages. Because if these signs are part of something greater, staying aware truly matters. Thank you for taking this time to watch, to reflect, and to listen. May God bless you, guide you, and protect you and your family with peace in every step ahead. Amen. Do you notice the world is sliding into something really scary? Just in the last few years, strange scenes have been exploding all over the planet. Oceans suddenly turning bright red like lakes of fire. The ground shaking so hard that things start dancing. Creepy screams echoing up from dark underground drains. Fireballs plunging into deep forests. Ancient stone doors appearing in the mountains. Glowing rings and mysterious objects floating in the sky. Everything is happening so fast, so hard to understand, and it's making a lot of people believe these are no longer random events. If these signs are really a warning, then what are we getting close to? Why are all these strange things showing up at the same time, from the oceans, deep inside the earth, all the way up to the sky? And what will happen if this is only the beginning of something much bigger? Keep watching, because the next 10 phenomena could make you see the world in a completely different way. And before we dive into each one, please help me by leaving a prayer in the comments as a way to show your faith. Amen. Now, let's get started right away with 1. A bright red glow swallows the ocean, judgment fire coming down from above. A pilot, flying over the Pacific Ocean at night, suddenly saw something that caught his eye right away. The whole ocean surface below lit up bright red, like one giant sea of fire. The light spread for miles under the low clouds, reaching all the way to the horizon. From thousands of feet up, the water wasn't the usual dark black anymore. It had turned into a glowing red area, burning right in the middle of the ocean. In that moment, anyone watching knew they were seeing something very unusual. The plane kept flying over the area, and the red light below became even clearer. It wasn't flashing on and off like lightning, and it wasn't moving like a cloud. It stayed still, covering large patches of the sea like a giant carpet of fire spread across the ocean. From high above, the light was so thick it reflected up onto the clouds, turning the whole sky a deep red. You can picture it, a dark black sea suddenly filled with thousands of red lights blazing at the same time in a strange and eerie way. This image reminded many people of the old words in the Bible. Matthew 24-29 says, "Immediately after the distress of those days, the sun will be darkened, the moon will not give its light, the stars will fall from the sky, and the heavenly bodies will be shaken." Those words remind us that the sky and the earth sometimes show strange signs that make people stop and think. After the video spread, a lot of people quickly offered the usual explanation. They said it was just modern fishing. The red light has the right wavelength to bring squid up from deep water near the surface. Industrial fishing fleets have been using this method for many years now. To them, the whole scene was simply the result of technology and business on the ocean. Even so, when hundreds of boats light up a huge stretch of sea for miles, the sight still makes many people stop and wonder. A dark ocean suddenly glowing bright red in the middle of the night, reflecting up into the sky and creating one giant bright area out at sea. That image doesn't look like normal work. It feels more like an unexpected sign appearing in our familiar world. The Bible also mentions times when the sea becomes unusual. Luke 21:25 says, "There will be signs in the sun, moon, and stars. On the earth, nations will be in anguish and perplexity at the roaring and tossing of the sea." Those verses don't point to one specific event, but they suggest that the sky and the ocean can become places where signs appear that make people pay attention. So when a bright red patch of sea suddenly bursts into light in the middle of the night over the Pacific, many people don't just see fishing boats. They see an image that makes us stop, look more carefully, and wonder what's really happening on this planet. And if one day that red light doesn't stop at the sea, if it keeps spreading and begins to cover the sky ahead, that might be the moment when everyone realizes the first signs have already started to appear. 2. The ground shaking in a strange way. A short video on TikTok suddenly caught people's attention. It shows something that happens in just a few seconds, but many folks have watched it over and over. A plastic bottle sitting on flat ground starts shaking hard, pops up, and rolls back and forth non-stop. No one touches it, no wind, no clear push at all. The bottle stays still for a second, then suddenly begins moving like the ground underneath is pushing up on its own. The video was filmed by a user named Zach Grimm near Yellowstone National Park in the United States. This area has long been known as one of the strongest geothermal spots on the planet. Miles underground lies a huge magma system that keeps heating up. When the plastic bottle on the ground started shaking, the person filming quickly lowered the camera closer to capture the event more clearly. In the video, the plastic bottle doesn't just shake a little, it pops up, tilts from side to side, then rolls a few inches before stopping. The ground underneath seems to send out small but steady vibrations. If you were standing right there, you could probably feel the earth moving under your feet, like a gentle push traveling through the soil below. Little shakes like these remind many people of ancient warnings. Matthew 24:7 says, "Nation will rise against nation, and kingdom against kingdom. There will be earthquakes and famines in various places. In the Bible, shaking of the ground is not just a geology thing. It's also mentioned as a sign that appears in unusual times in history. Scientists quickly gave the usual explanation. Yellowstone has thousands of hot springs and hundreds of small quakes every year. Vibrations from deep underground can reach the surface, strong enough to move light objects like a plastic bottle. According to them, what happened in the video is just a small tremor, something that happens pretty often in this area. But one detail caught many people's attention. In the video, the plastic bottle doesn't just shake once and stop. It keeps popping up, tilting, and rolling back and forth for several seconds, as if several pushes are coming up from inside the earth, one after another. These vibrations aren't strong enough for a big earthquake, but they're clear enough to make things on the ground move again and again. Shakes like this also bring to mind another part of the Bible. Revelation 6:12 reads, "I watched as the Lamb opened the sixth seal. There was a great earthquake. The sun turned black like sackcloth, and the moon turned blood red." In that picture, the shaking of the earth is described as a sign that leads to even bigger events. Yellowstone keeps doing what it's been doing for thousands of years. Scientists still track every small vibration deep underground with hundreds of seismic monitors. But when a small thing like a plastic bottle suddenly jumps on the ground in broad daylight, the sight is enough to make many people stop and think about what's really going on below the earth we walk on every day. Small shakes may just be a natural thing, but sometimes they feel like a reminder that the earth is never completely still. And if one day those vibrations aren't light anymore, if the ground under our feet starts moving harder, that could be the moment people realize the warning signs had been there all along. 3. A chilling sound from the drain. A strange noise suddenly came up from underground. No movement, no creature in sight, just a long cry echoing from a storm drain right in the middle of the neighborhood. The man standing nearby stopped, pulled out his phone, and started recording. The scene in front of him looked pretty simple: a metal drain cover sitting still on the street. But what was coming from below was something else entirely. The sound started with a long, drawn-out screech, then turned into high, quick bursts. It sounded like a goat bleating, but mixed with the scrape of metal against the inside of a pipe. The noise rose up, bounced through the pipes, then came back again, making a chain of echoes that was hard to trace. As the person recording stepped closer, the cry grew clearer, like it was shooting straight up from a deep, empty space under the ground. Standing there in front of that drain cover, you can easily feel a weird sense come over you. The sound didn't sound like wind, and it didn't sound like running water. It came in waves, paused, then came back again, as if something down there was sending out a signal from deep below. What do you think it really is? Images like this make a lot of people think of a passage in the Bible. Revelation 9:1-2 says, "I saw a star fall from heaven to the earth, and it was given the key to the bottomless pit. It opened the bottomless pit, and smoke came up out of the pit like the smoke of a great furnace. The sun and the air were darkened because of the smoke from the pit." In that passage, the bottomless pit is described as a deep place under the earth where strange signs begin to appear. When the video was posted online, people quickly split into different reactions. Some folks saw it as just a normal thing in the underground sewer system. They figured the sound could come from an animal stuck in the pipes or from the echo of water flowing around the bends in the drainage system. To them, the sewers are a maze that stretches for miles, where sounds can twist and carry in ways that are hard to predict. But for people of faith, the view is completely different. They hear that sound and right away remember the ancient warnings. In many parts of the Bible, unusual signs from heaven and from the earth often show up before big events. So the sound coming from underground isn't just an echo in a pipe. It could be a signal reminding us that something is moving deep below the world we see every day. Another passage in the Bible also talks about loud sounds as a sign to gather people. Matthew 24-31 says, "He will send out his angels with a great sound of a trumpet, and they will gather together his chosen ones from the four winds, from one end of heaven to the other." In that picture, the sound is described as a powerful signal, ringing out to announce an important moment. No matter how you explain it, the video still leaves a question without a clear answer. A drain cover sits quietly on the street, but the sound from below keeps rising again and again in front of the camera. It lasts a few dozen seconds, then slowly fades away, as if whatever was making it has slipped back into the darkness of the sewer system. And if one day similar sounds start showing up in other places, rising from the pipes under the city, from deep in the ground where we can't see, then we might realize that the first signals appeared quite early. Those small sounds, echoing in the dark, are sometimes the very beginning of something much bigger that the world isn't ready to face yet. 4. The secret door in the rocks. The gateway to another world is opening. An old stone door sits between two giant rocks deep in the forest. There are no signs, no tourist trails, just a narrow opening that suddenly appears in the rock wall. The traveler stops in front of that doorway and turns on the camera, because what he sees doesn't look like a regular cave. That moment makes us wonder. There are doors that have been here long before people ever noticed them. The door is made from one large upright stone block, pressed tightly between two natural rock walls. Its surface isn't completely smooth. It has faint carved lines, like traces left by some ancient civilization. You can't see any hinges, there's no handle, and there's no sign of modern tools. The whole stone block stands there like a giant door that was sealed shut many centuries ago. This place is in a remote forest near ancient ruins in the Kappalikaya area of Turkey, a region famous for rock structures carved into the mountains since ancient times. As the traveler steps closer, the daylight stops right at the edge of the door crack. Behind it is a deep, pitch-black space, deep enough to make anyone pause before going further. The image of a door appearing in the middle of nature reminds many people of descriptions in the Bible. Revelation 4:1 says, "After this I looked, and there before me was a door standing open in heaven, and the voice I had first heard speaking to me, like a trumpet, said, 'Come up here.'" In that passage, the door is described as an opening to another reality, where people are invited to step in and see things that have never been revealed before. When the video of the stone door spread online, people started talking about it right away. Some believe it's just the remains of an old structure, maybe the entrance to a stone tomb or a worship room from hundreds of years ago. Others say it's simply a natural cave, where rocks fell in such a way that they accidentally formed the shape of a door. But many others see the scene differently. To them, the quiet image of a door standing in the deep forest carries a strong symbolic meaning. They believe structures like this often appear in places tied to ancient history, places where people once thought the visible world and the invisible world could touch each other. Another part of the Bible speaks about a door very clearly. Matthew 7:13-14 says, "Enter through the narrow gate, for wide is the gate, and broad is the road that leads to destruction. But small is the gate, and narrow the road that leads to life, and only a few find it." In this teaching, the door is not just a physical thing. It's a symbol for the choice each person has to make. So when people look at that stone door in the forest, many don't just see an old ruin or a strange cave. They see an image that brings to mind reminders about the path we each have to choose. A small opening, standing quietly in nature, but strong enough to make anyone standing in front of it stop and think about what might be waiting on the other side. That door is still standing there, between the ancient rock walls and the quiet forest. No one knows exactly when it was made, and no one is sure what lies behind the darkness inside. But sometimes, just the existence of a door is enough to make us wonder, if one day that door were to open, what would be waiting on the other side. 5. A ball of fire falling from the sky. A streak of fire suddenly cut across the night sky and shot straight down toward the woods in the distance. The bright light only lasted a few seconds, but it was enough to make everyone freeze in place. One witness quickly grabbed his phone and started recording when he saw that huge glowing ball falling fast toward the horizon. That moment made us realize there are things from way up high that can show up out of nowhere and disappear in the blink of an eye. It happened in a thick forest in Pennsylvania, near the town of Kecksburg, the same place known for lots of stories about strange objects falling from the sky. The witness said the ball of fire looked like a giant burning star. It left a long, bright trail across the sky, then raced down into the woods at high speed before vanishing behind the thick trees. A few minutes later, smoke started rising from the spot where the object went down. A man ran toward it, but when he got closer, he saw the area had already been blocked off. Some vehicles had pulled up around the edge of the woods and covered the whole scene. From a distance, he could still see a large object sitting among the trees, smoldering quietly. According to the witnesses, the object looked like a giant egg, about 10 to 12 feet long. Its surface was dark and didn't look like any regular airplane or flying machine. No wings, no engines showing, just a strange object lying there in the ashes and broken branches. Pictures like that remind a lot of people of a prophecy in the Bible. Revelation 8:10 says, "The third angel sounded his trumpet, and a great star, blazing like a torch, fell from the sky on a third of the rivers and on the springs of water." In that passage, the image of a burning star falling from heaven is described as a sign that appears during big events in the world. On social media, the video quickly sparked a lot of debate. Some folks said it was just a regular meteor burning up as it fell through the atmosphere. Others believed it might be pieces of a satellite or some secret aircraft being tested. But many others pointed out that the quick lockdown of the area made the whole thing harder to understand. They asked why the spot was sealed off so fast and why the object was described as having such an unusual shape compared to a normal meteor. Those questions kept spreading as the video was shared on more platforms. Another part of the Bible also talks about signs in the sky. Matthew 24-29 says, "The sun will be darkened, and the moon will not give its light. The stars will fall from the sky, and the heavenly bodies will be shaken." In this prophecy, objects falling from heaven are mentioned as signs that appear before a very special time for all of us. That ball of fire disappeared into the woods that day, but the questions about it are still around. A bright burning object shot down from the sky, smoke rose from the site, and the area was quickly locked down. Those details make many people wonder if we really understand everything that's happening in the sky above us. And if one day, another streak of fire appears in the night sky, if it doesn't fall way out in some distant forest, but comes closer to where people live, then maybe we'll realize the first signs showed up a long time ago. 6. A strange, perfectly round cloud. A perfectly round cloud suddenly appeared right in the middle of thick smoke rising from a huge garbage dump. Nobody knew where it came from. It didn't look like a normal cloud, and it wasn't like smoke from a burning pile. A worker on the site stopped what he was doing, looked up, and quickly pulled out his phone to record it. That moment makes us wonder if something is happening in the sky that people still don't understand. Right in the middle of the black smoke rolling up from the giant trash pile, a bright white cloud appeared. Its shape was almost perfect, round and even, like someone drew it with a compass. The edges were sharp and clear, not spreading out like regular clouds. It hung low in the sky and slowly turned, almost like it was watching what was happening below. The worker stood still for several minutes, holding his phone and filming the scene. That round cloud didn't break apart, even though the wind kept blowing across the dump. It kept its shape and drifted slowly through the air, completely separate from the columns of smoke rising from the ground. That moment made us feel like the sky was quietly sending us a sign that's not easy for people to explain. Strange sights in the sky have been mentioned in the Bible for a long time. Luke 21:11 says, "There will be great earthquakes, famines, and pestilences in various places, and fearful events and great signs from heaven." In this warning, the sky is described as a place where signs appear that people need to pay attention to. According to the witness, the round cloud was about several dozen feet across. It didn't break into pieces like normal clouds, and the wind didn't stretch it out. Instead, it kept its round shape and moved very slowly, like a light object floating in the air, but staying perfectly stable. Some people who watched the video think it could be a lenticular cloud, one of those rare clouds that form in a round or oval shape under special weather conditions. Others say it was just smoke that got caught in a swirling wind and formed a ball for a few minutes before it disappeared. But a lot of people believe what makes this so unusual is how stable it was. The round cloud didn't fade away right away, and it wasn't pulled out of shape by the strong wind from the smoke. It kept its nearly perfect round form the whole time it was being filmed. That made many feel like something was holding it steady up there in the sky. Another part of the Bible talks about signs connected to smoke and strange things in the sky. Revelation 8:11 says, "The name of the star is wormwood. A third of the waters turned bitter, and many people died from the waters that had become bitter." The images in this passage remind us that the sky and the earth can show unusual signs before big events happen. That round cloud finally drifted farther away and disappeared from view. But the video keeps getting shared because seeing a perfect round cloud appear in the middle of thick black smoke from a garbage dump is something many people can't ignore. It felt like a quiet sign that showed up in the sky, right above the place where people are leaving their marks on this planet. And if one day similar round clouds start appearing in more places, floating over cities, over the ocean, or right above where people live, then maybe we'll realize that the first signs showed up long before humanity really paid attention to them. 7. Mysterious crack opens up on a Las Vegas street. A busy street in Las Vegas suddenly started shaking and split wide open right in the middle of the day. The sound of breaking concrete rang out in the busy area near the Westgate Hotel, where thousands of people walk by every hour. Folks standing nearby froze in place and just stared at the road splitting apart right in front of them. That moment made us realize that even the places we think are the strongest can change in just a few seconds. The road began to shake gently at first, then the shaking got stronger and clearer. A long crack suddenly appeared and quickly spread, running dozens of feet down the asphalt. Thick chunks of concrete broke apart, leaving a deep, dark gap right in the middle of the street. Cars slammed on their brakes, people stepped back, and the windows all around rattled with each little jolt. Right there, among the bright neon lights and giant billboards of the Las Vegas Strip, the whole scene looked especially strange. The city, known for its tall buildings and its non-stop crowds, suddenly saw the ground right under their feet start to move. Dust and smoke rose from the broken concrete, and the crack left a long, dark opening like a new line drawn across the road. Events like this make a lot of people think back to words written thousands of years ago. Matthew 24:7 says, "Nation will rise against nation, and kingdom against kingdom. There will be earthquakes and famines in various places." In that passage, the shaking of the earth is mentioned as a sign that appears during special times in human history. Engineers and geologists quickly gave the usual explanations. They said the event was probably caused by ground settling from underground water or from all the heavy construction happening beneath the city. Las Vegas is built on complicated layers of sediment, and changes in the soil structure can create sudden cracks in the road. But for many people who saw it with their own eyes, it wasn't just the crack that stuck with them. It was the way the ground shook before it split open, like something powerful was pushing up from below and moving along the street. That short, strong shaking happened fast, but it was enough to make the whole area stop and watch for a few minutes. Another part of the Bible describes big movements of the earth very clearly. Revelation 6:12 says, "I watched as the Lamb opened the sixth seal. There was a great earthquake. The sun turned black like sackcloth made of goat hair, and the whole moon turned blood red." In that picture, the movement of the ground is shown as a sign that comes before even bigger events. Las Vegas fixed the damaged road pretty quickly, and traffic started moving again like nothing had happened. But the image of that street cracking open in the middle of the City of Lights has been shared by a lot of people. Sometimes a small crack in the heart of a big city is enough to remind us that the foundations of our human world aren't always as solid as we think. And if one day similar cracks start appearing in many other cities, if the ground beneath our busiest downtown areas begins to shake even harder, then maybe humanity will finally realize that the warning signs started with those small tremors that so few people paid attention to. 8. A bright ring floating like a door to heaven. A bright white ring suddenly appeared in the empty sky, hanging right in front of the road. It wasn't city lights, and it wasn't a reflection from the sun. A young woman walking by stopped in her tracks when she saw the ring of light form right in front of her eyes. That moment makes us realize there are images in the sky that leave people both curious and unable to look away. The ring of light looked almost like a giant ring. Its light was white and soft, but strong enough to stand out against the sky. The glowing shape turned slowly, round and round, like a door spinning on its own. It didn't stay completely still. It shifted gently, as if moving by its own quiet rules. The young woman stopped in the middle of the road and raised her phone to record. In the video, her voice shakes just a little as she looks at the ring of light right in front of her. "What are you? What are you?" The light kept floating there, not breaking apart, not fading away like a cloud. That moment makes us feel like the sky is opening up to something that has never been clearly explained. The image of a door appearing in the sky has been mentioned in the Bible for a long time. Revelation 4:1 says, "After this, I looked, and there before me was a door standing open in heaven. And the voice I had first heard speaking to me like a trumpet said, 'Come up here.'" In that description, the door in heaven is not just a symbol. It is an opening that leads to things beyond our familiar world. The ring of light stayed hanging in the air for many seconds. Its glow changed very gently, sometimes thicker, sometimes thinner, like a ring of energy breathing. What caught many people's attention was how perfectly round it was, not pulled out of shape by the wind or breaking apart like ordinary clouds. On social media, the video quickly brought many different opinions. Some people said it was just a rare optical effect, when sunlight reflected through layers of moisture to create the ring of light. Others believed it could be a drone or some flying device making a light show in the sky. But many others saw the event in a different way. To them, the image of a ring of light floating in the sky felt like a reminder of ancient prophecies. Signs appearing in the sky have often been seen as signals that big changes are coming soon. Another part of the Bible talks about signs appearing in the sky before people witness major events. Matthew 24:30 says, "Then will appear the sign of the Son of Man in heaven, and then all the peoples of the earth will mourn when they see the Son of Man coming on the clouds of heaven, with power and great glory." In that description, the sky becomes a place where people see signs they have never seen before. The ring of light finally faded and disappeared from view. But the video kept spreading because the image of a ring of light hanging in the sky is something many people cannot forget. It feels like a short moment when the sky opened up to something beyond what we usually see. And if one day these rings of light start appearing more often, bigger, brighter, hanging right above where people are standing, then maybe we will realize that the first signs began showing up long before humanity truly understood what they meant. 9. The giant mysterious sphere in the Russian forest. A huge round object suddenly showed up deep in the woods in Russia. No warning signs, no fence around it, just this giant ball sitting quietly among the trees. A hiker walking through the forest stopped in his tracks when he spotted it from a distance. That moment makes you realize nature sometimes hides things that make people pause and look for a long time. The object sits in a forest area in the Tver region, where the woods stretch out for miles and miles. As you get closer, its shape becomes clearer. It's almost a perfect sphere, maybe dozens of feet across. The surface is smooth, with no big cracks, and not covered in thick moss, like rocks that have been there for years. The hiker walked around it several times. Each step brought him closer to the big question: where did this thing come from? When he put his hand on the surface of the sphere, he felt a cold feeling spread from the material. It didn't feel like natural stone, and it didn't feel like metal that had been rusting away over time. The sphere rests peacefully in a small clearing, surrounded by tall trees and a thick carpet of leaves on the ground. There are no signs it was built right there on the spot. No foundation, no support structures. That makes a lot of people wonder if it was placed there a long time ago, or if it appeared in some completely different way. Pictures like this remind many folks of words written in the Bible. Luke 21:11 says, "There will be great earthquakes, famines, and plagues in various places, and there will be terrifying sights and great signs from heaven." In that description, strange signs are mentioned as things people will see before they really understand what they mean. On the internet, photos of the sphere spread quickly and drew all kinds of opinions. Some people think it could be leftover from a military structure or a test device from the Cold War days. Others say it might be an old radar dome or the protective shell of some piece of technology that was once set up in the area. Still, there are details that make this object hard to explain completely. Its surface hardly shows any wear, even though it's been sitting in the forest for many years. The nearly perfect round shape makes people ask how something so big could show up in the woods without clear signs of construction around it. Another part of the Bible talks about objects coming from the sky during big events in the world. Revelation 8:10 says, "The third angel sounded his trumpet, and a great star, blazing like a torch, fell from the sky." Images like these led many people to believe that the sky and the earth sometimes show signs beyond what we usually understand. The sphere is still there in the Tver forest, quiet and unmoving. The hiker left the area after filming a few short videos, but the question about where it came from remains. A giant round object sitting in the wild always gets people's imaginations going. Something like this could just be the remains of an old structure, or it could be a sign that people haven't fully understood yet. One thing is sure: its presence makes many folks stop, look for a long while, and then wonder what other secrets the world around us might still be hiding in places few people ever reach. 10. A strange green light in the sky. Mysterious objects controlling things from above. A bright green light suddenly burst across the night sky, and inside it there were objects moving around. The video, recorded by a TikTok user, made millions of people stop and look closely at every frame. That light didn't look like a shooting star or a flare. When you see something like that, don't you wonder what's really happening up there above us? The night sky is where people have often seen strange lights that are hard to explain. But in this video, the blue-green light appeared like a clear block of energy. It spread out, then stayed steady in the air. Inside that glowing area, many small points moved slowly, shifting position little by little, as if they were interacting with the light around them. The person filming stayed almost still while watching the scene. The small objects didn't fly around wildly. They moved in an orderly way, giving the feeling that